What's up, guys? Tonight is the night. The debate is happening between me and Peter Valley. And we're going to have several topics we'll be covering, including sales rank and ScoutIQ versus Scoutly. A bunch of different topics will probably pop up. I think a really interesting one that one of you guys recommended was when to take a sellback offer versus sending it to Amazon. I think that's that's an important one right there. And so welcome to the channel, Peter. And I guess I'm on your channel too. So hi up to all your
what's
people.
up, everybody? Here, this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
I love a good debate, and I love being right. So
yeah.
I get to satisfy both.
And like you were saying, I don't know how many of these we actually disagree on. I know the ScoutIQ versus Scoutly, that's going to be an interesting one for sure. We got some repricing in here, which I just made a video on your software, NeuroPrice. I thought we disagreed on what was it? Condition notes. But I think we might actually agree on that. But there's a few nuances. We might disagree on conditioning.
Yeah, so there's condition notes and then conditioning. I don't disagree with you in that condition does not matter that much.
Yeah.
Do I have your position right? So I think we agree on that. As far as condition notes, I don't want to spoil it, but I think we might not agree on that.
Cool. So we have a whole list here, and then everyone in the comment section, what's up? We got F the internet saying let's go. Peter Valley, the truth. Rami says got my popcorn. Thrift with Joy says hi guys. This guy's over on your channel, Romy.
Yeah, I see some familiar names. What's up, Burnus?
Nan Golf Chick says hi guys. Deke always coming in. Let's get rich. I'm ready. Let her rip. All right. So, and then, like I was saying, if you guys have any recommendations, like we're going to be covering probably 7 different topics, but if anything comes up that you really want us to debate, we'll probably just freestyle it at the end. So everything in the comments, any other topics you guys want, go ahead and comment those below. What's up, Lori?
Yeah, if anyone has ever heard me say anything that we don't agree on, that maybe we don't know we don't agree on, definitely. We can totally freestyle.
Yeah, that's good too. There needs to be an impartial moderator. Curious to hear both sides. All right, let's start with which sales rank to stay under. This is my first debate on YouTube, so I'm not exactly sure how to format this or how to go about this. Maybe you go first and then I'll go and we'll see how that flow goes. Maybe every other question we can alternate who answers first.
Okay. Yeah.
And then we'll just kind of like, if we disagree, we'll go back and forth.
Yeah. So a lot to say on this. So again, I don't know if we disagree on this one. My position is there's no such thing as a book that is too poorly ranked to bring into your inventory. Even a book that has no rank at all. But it doesn't mean you just bring anything into your inventory indiscriminately just because it has a high value. There's sort of I think it's like a 3-rule test that I apply. So if I've got a book in my hand and it's ranked, let's say something atrocious, like 7 million, like most sellers would run the other way. I don't just put that book down. Assuming the value is high, in other words, it's worth my time, $30+. I usually apply, 2 or 3 question test. So the first question I would ask is does this book have a more recent edition? In other words, is this a book that, is 7 million because there's more recent editions? I wouldn't just apply to textbooks. I could apply to a lot of things. So that's number one. Number 2, is it on a mainstream subject? Are there books that could replace this book? Or is this book on a subject that's so niche, there's no other book in the world that can replace it? If it's super niche, and I don't think there's any other book in the world that can replace it, I'm really interested in that book, no matter what the rank is. And then the third question I would ask is the subject obsolete? So is it like, so you got to say you got a book ranked 7 million, but it's like a microwave repair guide, right? Like I'm going to pass on that. But if it's a book ranked 7 million on a subject that's like still current, like it could be some, I don't know, whatever, like something that's still current and it's on a really niche subject and there's not a more recent edition, I'm going to buy that book, assuming that the value is high enough. So it's not, to me, it's not a question of like, what's the cutoff? It's a question of the qualitative analysis as well as the quantitative. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you know the highest sales rank book that you've purchased and like successfully sold?
Oh, I mean, I've sold quite a few that had no rank at all. I've done that. I'd say I do that pretty consistently.
Yeah. So my answer, pretty similar. I don't really care about sales rank that much. but I don't really look at the category like you do. What I do is if it's got high profit, it has to have high profit in order for me to even look at it. So if the sales ranks, let's just say 2 million plus, I'm not even considering it if it's not like $20 profit at least. And if it's 3 million plus, like we got to have at least a $50 profit there. And then what I do is I just open it up on my phone, Keepa, and I zoom out to all time, and I just look for green spikes. When was it selling? Was it selling more in the past versus now? And then, like if it sold a lot more in the past than now, then maybe there is a new edition out. But I've never really been like into looking at new editions and stuff like that. I know a lot of online arbitrage people are into that, but I think it's just because I'm lazy. I just look at the data. If it sold over the last year for $100 plus, or even $50 plus, and I'm only investing $1 or $2, I'll probably pick it up. So uh, perhaps this debate would be more interesting if we were going against those old people that use PDAs that set their sales rank at like 1 million, and
Yeah.
then like that's like their cutoff. And a lot of people still have that rule, but sounds like we're kind of on the same page with the
Well,
sales rank.
I do think we disagree a little bit. So you were saying 2 million rank, $20 minimum. I don't know if that's profit or payout. I would agree with you on that. I think you said 30 for 3 million and up, it'd have to be like $50 plus. And I'm a lot more conservative. I would say 3, 4, 5 million. Like I'm comfortable around $30 listing price, not even payout.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm a little more, I'm probably a little more, I guess that'd
Yeah.
be,
This will probably get into something else, but we might just fundamentally disagree on triggers.
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Debate
So
that.
yeah, we could debate triggers later. Let me see. Because I never really mess with the higher rank triggers too much. Um, yeah, we could debate triggers later. So that's a good topic
Cool.
to disagree on. Okay, actually, that's the next topic.
Yeah.
Uh, Best triggers. So I'll go first on this one since you went first last time. I think like if we're going to be smart about running our business and not just want to feel good about getting as many profitable books as possible, it's important to set your for profit high. So for me, that's $4, and it's a different scenario. Like if I have books for free, I'll take $1 or $2. Like if they're already in my possession at my house, I'll take $1 or $2. But if I'm paying $1 for the book, I want to make at least $4 back. So that's my bottom trigger. Now, I'm actually going to pull up my triggers here for my upper limit, but do you want to comment on maybe the lower end triggers?
Well, here's the thing. So we disagree fundamentally on the validity of triggers. Period. So I've never used triggers. My position is the best
Okay.
triggers are no triggers. It's actually funny. I before we started talking, so I don't know if you know this, but I used to go in your Facebook group and record videos. I used to record videos of me just like commenting on
Well, I've
things.
seen a few of those. Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw
So
like
like
one of them.
I stopped doing it because it got to just be too. I got to be like too negative, and I just didn't like it. But I didn't like the
Yeah.
sign you brought up. But anyway, a big subject that kept reoccurring in those videos, I did like 30 of them, was people posting screenshots of ScoutIQ or Scoutly, and it would be like, hey guys, like why is Scoutly saying buy this, or why is ScoutIQ saying reject this? And I came to realize like a lot of people don't literally that are weaned on triggers, that never haven't used triggers, literally don't know how to read the app data. Like they literally don't, even on a most basic level, do not understand the numbers on the screen. All they know is buy and reject. That's all they know. And so so I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, but there's a couple arguments I have against triggers. So and like I've literally never used them ever. And I think there's kind of two parts to this. There's using the default triggers without ever editing them, which is like the worst thing you could possibly do. And then to me, there's also setting your own triggers, which is still bad in a different way. So I kind of have like a few thoughts on this. So one, the app triggers can only analyze the quantitative data, not the qualitative. Like I would argue there are books that are ranked 5 million that are better purchases than books ranked 2 million. And the triggers would never, they can't do that qualitative analysis. Like in other words, like let's say a book that's ranked 2 million that's selling for $30, but it's like a travel guide that was published 2 years ago and it's like definitely on its way out. But there's a book ranked 5 million that's also selling for 30 that's, some timeless like physics book or something. The 5 million ranked book would be better in that situation because the other one's on its way out, but the triggers wouldn't ever they can't do that analysis, right? I'm giving you kind of a long answer here, but that's
Yeah. I guess I'm seeing how much we disagree on this now, because I think we kind of have different philosophies around it as well. Um, and actually, I didn't know this about you, but you kind of started your journey. You've done a lot of hitchhiking. You've done a lot of sleeping in hotel parking lots, and so we're similar in that aspect. But part of the reason why I rely on triggers is because I hate looking at my phone. I hate over analyzing stuff. I would rather just go in a thrift store and scan for 4 hours and not have to think much. And so what I would do is I will actually set my triggers lower so I get more, let's call them false positives than false negatives. I want to get notified by my phone that it might be a good buy. And I would rather just turn my brain off and just scan, because for me to look at my phone, I mentally exhaust myself over an hour or two. Like, I'll just be exhausted. If I'm analyzing Keepa, if I'm looking at the numbers for every single scan, I'm only going to scan for a few hours, but I could scan for 4 hours plus if I'm just listening for the cha-ching noise. So I guess like, you're literally looking at your phone for every single scan.
Oh yeah, every single. Well, okay. So what I'm not doing is looking at Keepa charts. I'm not like clicking over. I'm not doing a lot of kind of what you alluded to at all.
Yeah.
I don't do that. But what I do, and I would argue it's almost as fast as what you're doing, which is I just split second glance at the phone, and it's a skill that you learn pretty quickly. So I just looking at like merchant fulfilled price, FBA price, sales rank, all within like zero point 0.8 seconds, right? So I'm just
Yeah.
looking at it, boom. Usually I don't even have to look past the merchant fulfilled price. If the merchant fulfilled price is good, I know the FBA price is better. So I don't even need to worry about anything past that. But I am looking at my phone for everything I scan. And what's crazy is like a lot of people don't. I kind of learned this actually in your face, right? Kind of what I said a second ago, which is like a lot of people don't even know what the data is. I don't even know if they know those numbers represent prices. Like it's that bad when you get dependent when you're so dependent on
Yeah.
triggers. You just depend on the noise or the visual. So yeah, I mean, I just think we have a generation of sellers that are just dumb, solely because of these triggers.
They're lazy. Yeah. They when they find out about triggers, they're like, oh, the phone's going to tell me if it's profitable. And I've actually experienced this too. When I first started, like, you have an emotional attachment. If the phone says it's profitable, or rather, if the phone says it's not profitable, you might not feel like purchasing it because the phone's literally red, reject. It looks like it's not profitable, but maybe you're like, the buy box is 17 plus. There's no FBA offers. Maybe it's like 1 million sales rank, but the e-score or sales score is pretty high, like, and you want to pick it up, but the phone's telling you reject. So, but what I always did in those scenarios, and this is maybe my brain always wanting to automate things, I was like, well, why am I buying this book if it's a reject? And I would always try to get back to the app and maybe reconfigure the trigger if possible to make it say yes. And a lot of times I got in this debate with myself where it was like, okay, I just told you guys my lowest trigger was $4 profit. Well, what happens when I scan and it's $3.99 profit and the e-score is 151 plus? And I just know it's got a high merchant offer. Maybe the merchant offer is like $12. I just know this book's not going to tank in price. How many times have I picked up a book where it's just a penny under what my trigger is going to accept or reject? And I'll pick it up and it says reject. And then I'm like, I literally did this. I'm like, okay, I'm going to lower my triggers to 375. Same story when I scan something, it's 374 profit. Now my phone's saying reject. You know what I mean? So like I would try to optimize it, like overly optimize. So, but I do see what you're saying with like the difference between those two 5 million ranked books. Like the one physics book you're saying it has a new edition out, it's never going to sell again, versus maybe a religious book that has consistent sales every year. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
And beyond even that, like my buying criteria could change. I don't know if you can relate to this, but like my buying criteria can change within a given day. Like, I don't know if you ever do this, but like you find one score, it's like, oh, it's a $150 book. So now I'm going to start taking more risks because I just got $150. I know it's like guaranteed. So now I'm going to like maybe kind of relax my standards a little bit for the rest of the day. Like, it's just my buying standards can change within a day. They can change within a given month. If I'm having a good month, I might take more risks. And so if you're always having to edit your triggers, I would argue like, why even use triggers at that point? Like, the whole point is to automate things, right? So, yeah, I just think it's a it's kind of a solution in search of a problem. Like you can do the same thing just by glancing for literally half a second at your phone.
But you still have, because you're using Scoutly, right?
Yeah.
And you still have your triggers on, right? You're not scanning without.
Only because I don't know how to turn them off.
Gotcha.
Like, I never even bothered to even figure that part out.
You know what's funny is like I'm still weird about CDs and DVDs, even though I've sold thousands. I've sold thousands via my service restrictedinventory.com, but I haven't sold that many from me going out cherry picking. And something emotionally is still weird with me with CDs and DVDs where I do look at every single scan. Whereas with books, I'm more like, okay, these are the triggers I agree with. I'm just going to scan. And if it turns green, then I'm going to look at my phone because I have so many more false positives than I do false negatives. And again, like I try to program my phone to really avoid ever having false negatives because false negatives usually happen when, in my opinion, when the triggers just aren't set low enough to even notify you. Like I think you should probably not be buying, I don't know, I'm just pulling this number out, but like 1 out of 3 or 4 books that say are an accept, you should probably leave on the shelf, if not more. You know?
Yeah.
For me, it's a mental game though. Like, what's the longest you've ever scanned in one day?
Oh, I mean, if you mean like if you clocked me, like actually like hitting the,
I guess like starting in a thrift store and including even driving time until like you're completely done.
Oh, easily. I mean, there's been many times I've started at 7 a.m. and come back at 9 p.m.
Yeah.
Many times.
Yeah. It's exhausting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's exhausting. I feel like I'd be more exhausted if I was just robot. Like I feel like looking at the screen kind of keeps my mind engaged.
Really?
So maybe that's part of it.
You don't put headphones in?
Never. I'm weird. Dude, I'll work for 12 hours at a computer doing other stuff and I'm weird. Like I don't listen to anything.
Dude, so like I would not be able to, I promise I would not have done this business. And the business before that I had was landscaping. The only reason why I did these 2 businesses, cherry picking books and landscaping yards, was because I could put headphones on and just listen to podcasts all day and audiobooks. I used to listen to an audiobook a day or like just Joe Rogan, 2 podcasts of Joe Rogan, which are 3-hour podcasts like every day.
Wow.
I wouldn't do it otherwise. So I guess we definitely disagree there. You're probably like, admittingly, you're probably making better purchases than me. And I'm kind of like admitting to that. But my philosophy is like the version of Avery that is looking at every single book on his phone is probably going to quit earlier in the day rather than scanning all day. So that's why I do it the way I do.
And dude, like 100%, like if you're like the person who scans everything in a store with triggers is always going to make more money than the person who doesn't use triggers and is not scanning everything. But the point is, like, there's like a time cost to that, right? And anyway, I think we've made our cases, but
yeah,
it's
I think that's probably the biggest one we disagree on. That's really interesting though.
I think the biggest one is going to be what we're about to talk about.
Oh yeah, ScoutIQ versus Scoutly. Let's give some shout outs though, real quick. We got Romy saying Steve Rakin actually said something to this extent: just because it hasn't sold on Amazon doesn't mean it doesn't sell at all. It could just be a limited edition with 250. Yeah. So you talking about buying the eScore 0? Like that's huge. A lot of people, that'll go over a lot of people's heads, but it's really important to realize that a sales score of 0 does not mean it's bad. Sales rank of 0. Got my pen and paper. Round 1 fight, great debate, better than the presidential. I agree with that.
A lot more.
Unfortunately, we're probably like, man, that is they can't.
Which one are you? You don't want, neither of us wants to be Biden. Neither of us probably wants to be Trump.
Yeah, I think I'd rather be Trump than Biden. Not that I like Trump, but Biden did not do well in that debate. How often would you visit the same thrift stores? We'll get into some Q&A afterwards. If you guys have any topics, comment those below. Do triggers matter? We just went over that. Okay, I've got something y'all can debate on. Peter Valley once said he doesn't scan everything, which kind of goes against Romer mindlessly scanning. You kind of talked a little bit about how if you scan everything, you'll probably end up all right. And I do mindlessly scan, but hopefully you guys understand why I do, because I drive myself crazy if I don't. If I hyper analyze the store, like I'll just be too critical of myself, and then I just feel like shit by noon, and then I want to quit. I'd rather just like zen out, put a podcast on, have a bunch of false positives pop up on my phone, say, nope, I don't want that. Maybe I do leave a few on the shelf because I'm not looking as detailed as Peter is, but that's just my philosophy.
I'm a big proponent of being able, I call it like the zen of book selling, but where, the ability to like look at 100 books, look at a shelf of books and hone in on like the one or two or three or five that are worth scanning and like kind of filtering out the rest. And it's a skill you only learn over time. And a lot of people never learn it. And I think it's a good skill to have. The ability
You know
to,
what? I'm curious if you've ever ran into this. Sorry to cut you off, but like when you walk in a thrift store, do you ever walk in and there's like a textbook section that looks perfect? Like it just looks like it's going to hit. And you start scanning it and nothing hits. And the
yep,
reason why it doesn't hit is because it's a textbook section that looks so good. Like the books are shiny, they look new, whatever, but it's been hit so many times that like you're scanning the section that should be good if it was unpicked, but it sucks. But what I've realized at those stores, sometimes the section that's supposed to suck, like the children's section, actually hits pretty good.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I think a store's been picked over, I'm always looking for like the physical blind spots, like
Yeah.
where the place in the store no one else is willing to go, like whether that's like the bottom shelves or whether
Yeah.
it's like, sometimes like the craft section will have art books separate, like just like little stuff like that other sellers are likely to miss. That's all
Yeah.
I'm looking for when I think a place is picked over.
And that's when those non-barcode books come in.
Yeah. There you go.
What sales rank offer are you deciding to go? FBA, FBM? We can talk a little bit about that later.
Yeah.
All right, guys, keep the comments coming. Appreciate everyone in here. We got 80 people in the house tonight. Let's move on to the next topic. This is probably going to be the hottest topic right here. And hopefully we won't talk past each other too much because I have my argument ready. I know Peter has his, but let's go. Let's tackle it. ScoutIQ versus Scoutly.
Okay, let's do it. So here's my history. So I started out with when it was called a seller tool way back, like only called a seller tool way back in the day. Then I switched to Scan Power from like 2000. Anyway, it doesn't matter. 2010 or whatever. Anyway, and then I've been back to what is now Scoutly ever since, probably since like 2012 or something, 13 something. So I have a lot of history with Scoutly. I was around for the emergence of ScoutIQ. I checked it out briefly, and I was never sold on it. And there's probably like 12 different reasons that I'm pro Scoutly over ScoutIQ, but I'll give you the top ones. One of them is, and we'll just kind of go shots fired out of the gate here. Through what I would argue is a rigorous scientific method, I have determined that the eScore figure is almost completely fake. Now,
are you talking about sales score too?
no, I'm not talking about sales score. I've never actually done an audit of sales score. The reason, or a thorough audit the way I did with eScore, the reason being that Scoutly has the average rank. So that to me is like the gold standard. If you're getting raw sales rank data averaged together from Amazon, like that literally is all I care about. Okay. I see that the concept of eScore is good. The implementation is terrible. Now, here's what I can say and what I can't say. I did this audit a year ago. Okay, so what I cannot say with any conviction is what eScore was like prior to that and what it's like now. Maybe they've improved it. Maybe it's been fake since day one. Maybe it was good and then it wasn't good. And then when it got acquired and maybe now it's good again. I don't know any of this. I'm just saying as of a year ago, I scanned, I don't want to misspeak. I have an article about this, but I think it was like 80 books and 10 of them were like egregiously wrong. And I mean, the eScore wasn't even within the realm of reality. Meaning if you compare it to the Keepa charts, which I consider to be like the most authoritative data. So eScore is kind of, I would say, a largely fictional number. And I think you can understand, we can all appreciate that like you can't like close enough is not good when it comes to your buying decision. So like I don't want something that's good like 80% of the time if it's telling me if I'm using it as a basis for what to buy and what not to buy. And I think 80% is even being generous. Well, 20% of the time it was so bad it was like not even within the realm of reality. So I think eScore, that's one of my biggest arguments. eScore cannot be trusted. Number two, Scoutly's database contains all products, not just media, which is huge. Number three, Scoutly displays more data. Although the data Scoutly displays, I would not argue is the most useful data, but for some users or some.
Can you say that second one again? You said something about the database?
Yeah, the downloadable database with ScoutIQ, last I checked, does not contain non-media items. Is that still accurate?
I think maybe it doesn't. Guys, can you comment in the chat? I thought ScoutIQ does allow for the media database to be downloaded. Maybe it's just media
only with ScoutIQ, and then Scoutly has everything.
Yeah. Oh, Scout, but it's still just media, right?
No, with Scoutly, you can it's everything, every category. It's
Yeah,
health.
Reezy told me that recently. So, but how relevant is that? Like, have you tried it like in a retail arbitrage? Like, what are they downloading? Are they just downloading the top products on Amazon? Like, your phone can't hold that much space.
It actually does. I mean, I don't get a lot of no results with Scoutly ever, and you know I think it's important because even if you're focused on books, you're purchasing other stuff. Like you could be scanning, you know, printer sealed packages of printer paper, like that stuff adds up.
I
And
was
you
arguing this with Reezy recently because he told me that, and I said, "Bro, it doesn't matter if you have the database downloaded for I don't know toys or something." And he was like, "Well, obviously you've never been in a Walmart in the middle of nowhere where there's no service." And so he was arguing it does matter for the service. I'm thinking of speed, and the reason why database is so good is you can scan really fast. But I don't need to scan it. By the time I pick up one toy and like I'm going to pick up the other one, like the live lookup can usually process it, but Reezy was saying that a lot of times you don't have service in the middle of nowhere. So is that kind of your point too with that?
Yeah, I would agree with him there, and that you know, especially I'm really fond of getting really far out in deep off the map, and so I think that's a situation I encounter, you know, semi regularly.
Okay,
So
fair enough.
that's a big one. So then Scoutly displays more data. Scoutly shows average sales rank, which again I consider to be the gold standard. So that's really important to me. Scoutly displays the Keepa charts on the main screen versus having to kind of click over. So that's really important to me. Although I wouldn't say I look at Keepa charts that much. I'm not like every item. I'm not one of those people, but it does matter. It's cheaper. That's a huge one. And I just think Scoutly is like a longer running, more credible company in general. So those are my top arguments.
Okay. Okay. Real quick, I want to address the average rank thing. I think that's where you and Caleb disagree. And I learned so much about selling books from Caleb. So I remember him saying, did you know he disagreed with you on that?
No, I don't know if I've ever seen
Okay,
both.
because he's written blogs about it, and I just thought maybe that was something you guys like debated, like via the Cold War that you guys had or whatever. So average rank, he always talked against average rank, and so I'm not going to be able to argue this point as good as he would be able to. But I'm going to drop this in the chat real quick. Can somebody that uses Scoutly tell me what the average rank score is for this ASIN in the chat? And I'll share my screen briefly here. So this is my attempt to argue that average rank doesn't matter. But again, I'm probably going to do a poor argument of this because I just kind of listened to Caleb when he mentioned that. But I guess the idea would be like every time a book sells, sales rank's just a screenshot in time, right? So every time a book sells, it's going to go down to close to 100,000 somewhere in that range, and then it's quickly going to go back up to where it was. So you can see this is a 5 million ranked Jewish set, but it does sell over last year. I mean, it sold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. I'm curious what the average rank is on this and how meaningful that would be to you versus I would think the e-score would be much more meaningful, even if it is, would you say 80% accurate is what you were estimating?
80% not egregiously inaccurate was what I was
Okay.
saying. Let me see if I can pull it
So
up on.
if somebody in the comment can tell me what is the e-score and what is the average rank, or so what's the sales score? Katie Reed says, dang, about to switch to Scoutly.
I'm trying to do it myself, and I just got a new phone yesterday, and it's asking me to sign in again. So I have to figure this out. So I think someone else can do it faster than I can.
So the e-score should be 1, 2, 3. Actually, no, this is 6 months. So 6 months would be about 3 or 4, depending on if this date's included. But I'm curious, like, because if the average rank for this is like 3 million.
I'm literally trying to log into Scoutly right now so I can do this myself.
I'm surprised nobody in the comment section has hit us up.
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of a book though that would counter that argument of the average sales rank mattering, because you might see, oh, it's 3 million. I mean, the profit's really high, so you'd still get notified. But
well, so okay, so your argument's going to be what? So let's just say that, like,
my argument would be that e-score would be much more meaningful for that book because it tells you, oh, this book's sold 3 times. It's in the chat right here, guys. This is the ASIN if somebody wants to look it up. And drop the sales score or e-score below. And we need someone using Scoutly to drop the average sales rank for this. The ASIN's right here. So my argument is eScore, which eScore was first, and this gets into my whole argument about ScoutIQ versus Scoutly. When A Tool started, they did not have sales score. Sales score was inspired by eScore. When eScore was created, we were able to see on high ranked books like this how many times it sold over the last 6 months. So an eScore of 3 on a 3 million plus ranked book all of a sudden becomes way more meaningful than a 3 million ranked book. You don't know what the eScore is, because now you know it's at least it's sold 3 times, and maybe there's only 3 copies, or maybe there's only 1 copy. So you know your chance of selling that book is actually pretty high. Whereas without eScore, without sales score, we wouldn't have that confidence. And I guess my first argument for ScoutIQ is they innovated the market in that sense. They were the ones to first come out with this metric. And I really do think it helped bulk booksellers make better purchasing decisions, cherry pickers make better purchasing decisions. So that's my argument for ScoutIQ on that regard.
I'll get to your argument in a second that they sort of.
David Miller says it's not showing the average rank. Interesting.
Okay, so someone else is saying 6.1 million average and a blank eScore. 6.1 million current. Got it. Okay. So in this situation,
so it's got no average rank, guys.
But here's the thing. This is kind of making my point. The eScore is blank. And this is what I keep seeing with eScore is it just doesn't work. And nobody ever compares it to the Keepa charts. eScore should not be blank. We just saw it right in the Keepa charts. We can all agree there was 5 sales or something. Why is the eScore blank? This is my argument, is that it's just a bad number that nobody audits. And so I would encourage anyone, if they're interested, go look at my article, go to fbmastery.com and just type in eScore, and you'll see my audit.
Okay, this is interesting. People are saying it has an eScore 2. Can somebody verify that this has an eScore 2 and that it's got a Scoutly score of 2 dashes, which is interesting.
Which 2 dashes just means no sales score.
No data found.
Yeah. So I'd rather have that 6 million number than a blank eScore thinking it's never sold. Because even if they're both not perfect, the 6 million rank gives me more information than the blank eScore, which is just wrong, if that's accurate. So here's what I would say. Everyone should do the audit I did. If you're using ScoutIQ and you're a believer in it, take the eScore and just look at 10 or 20 books and compare it to the Keepa charts. And unless something's changed in the last year, I think you'll find what I found, which is that it's really, really inaccurate.
Okay, so I can verify the eScore is 2. Somebody just dropped it in my Facebook group. The eScore for this book is 2.
So, I mean, that's a big discrepancy, right? It's that's too big for me to be comfortable with.
Yeah, but at least it caught something. It's better than, in my opinion, having at least an eScore 2 is better than, looking at the current sales rank of 6 million and not knowing that because now at least we have 2 verified sales. Now I know you're saying that it's not accurate, but I'm curious what the sales score is on Scoutly for this.
I think people are saying it's just blank,
okay,
which is also inaccurate, right? In a different way, but that kind of makes my point, which is that average rank is really the most useful measure of a book's demand.
And we didn't get to average rank for this one. Oh, average rank is 4.3 million. Yeah, so when we get to those lower profit books, like $30, $40 profit, I may leave it on the shelf if it's got if all I saw was an average rank of 4.3 million and there's only a couple offers, I might leave it on the shelf. But if I saw the eScore was 2, then I'm like, oh, it sold at least 2 times in the last 6 months. That's way more interesting. That's way more meaningful.
The difference here is that and this is what I would encourage everyone to do, is that I understand roughly what a rank of 6 million is.
Mm-hmm.
And not saying you don't, but I'm just saying, to me, I can immediately translate that to a couple sales a year at least. So I'm already kind of doing that.
What do you think of when you think of a 500,000 ranked book? What does that mean to you?
Sold in the last 3 days, 2 or 3 days.
Does it mean anything else?
No.
How many times a year do you think a 500,000 ranked book would sell?
1,000. Wait, sorry, not 1,000.
1,000. Over a year.
150-ish.
Yeah, so I guess my problem with that is if you look at that book I just pulled up, you saw the sales rank drop's going to drop down to 100,000. If you downloaded Scoutly or ScoutIQ that day, then it's going to show 100,000 sales rank. Great. According to you, if it has a 500,000 sales rank, it's sold up about 100 times over the last year. But yesterday, or even early in the morning, it had a 6 million sales rank before the sale occurred. It just so happened that you downloaded the database right when that sale occurred. You went out and started sourcing. Now you have this screenshot in time of when the sales rank happened. So sales rank's fleeting. It's always changing.
No,
And
we agree with that. We agree on that. But what we're talking about is average rank versus current rank. What you're talking about
the average rank, because then it's going to go back up. So the average rank's always going to remain in the multiple millions. Whereas if you have at least the e-score or the sales score, assuming it's accurate, you can see, oh, this does have 2 or 3 or 4 sales over the last 6 months. And even an e-score of 1 can be pretty damn good if there's 0 copies available or 1 copy available. Then you know that your chances are pretty high of being the next sale. So for me, that's why sales rank or sales score, e-score is important.
See, I'm getting the same data from I'm getting the same information from average rank that you're getting from e-score.
I don't think so.
I think so because neither of them are accurate, right? Or I mean, let's assume e-score is accurate, and let's assume that average rank is still a little fuzzy, which of course it is, right? You're never going to do a direct translation. In a perfect world, if e-score was actually accurate, then it would be superior to average rank. It is not, and I think we kind of just
okay. So your argument is it's just not accurate, and I guess I don't have the data to back that up right now. So I'll have to make a follow-up YouTube video on that. I'll have to do an audit of a bunch of e-scores. But even if your claim of it being 80% accurate, I would still argue an 80% accurate e-score is more meaningful and more helpful than an average sales rank score, because sales rank changes all the time. So what the hell does an average sales rank mean?
I'm going to, before we go on too long, let me just show you. I'm going to pull up this article that I wrote. I'm going to give you some of the examples that I found that were just bonkers, like how bonkers to where they would cause you to make an aggressively bad buying decision. So, give me a second here. So there's a long article I wrote. I kind of got suspicious because a lot of people were posting actually in your Facebook group. They were like, hey, what's up with this e-score? And it doesn't seem accurate. And I was like, there might be something here. So, okay. So here's just one example. Book number 1, e-score estimate says 11 sales in the last 6 months. The Keepa chart reflects 5.
Mm-hmm.
Another example, e-score says 6 sales in the last.
I saw this article of yours. Did you have to? Was it 1 in 10 books? You realized this? Was it? What was how long did it take you to dig these up?
Let me pull it up. I think I put the number at the top here. I think it was I think I scanned 80 books or something. Give me a second. I might not be able to find it. So someone can read the article and maybe find it for me. But I think it was 70 or 80 books I scanned. So anyway, I go on and on. There's 10 examples, but some of them are, it's here's the thing. E-score claims to be exact, right? E-score doesn't make the claim that sales rank makes, which is, hey, it is in exact figure. E-score claims to be, this is exact. If you look at their documentation, E-score claims this is an exact figure. So if you're going to make that claim, you have to be able to back it up. You can't, if E-score said, hey, we're about 70% right, 80% right, that's one thing. That's not what they claim. So that's a big part.
These, just one extra question, because E-score is days with at least 1 sale. Are you looking at maybe a day that had 2 sales rank drops in a row and counting that as it should have been an e-score of 2 more than it was? Are you considering that?
I was pretty careful. What I did is I posted screenshots of the actual charts from ScoutIQ, which I assume are Keepa charts, although I'm not 100% sure. And so you can kind of double check my work, but I was pretty careful about that.
Do you know how e-score is generated? Reagan Profit's asking.
How it's generated?
Yeah.
It's the number of days with a sale in the last 6 months.
But do you know, is it pulled from Keepa?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know.
I think it's the same thing as SellerAmp sales rank drops for X period of time. So I think it's over a 6-month period, how many sales rank drops occurred according to Keepa. I don't know. I didn't helped build ScoutIQ. So I'm not sure how they generated that, but this is definitely a follow-up video that I need to do. At least maybe, I feel like a fair test would be to look at 100 random books, compare the e-score. Let's only do e-scores of like 30 and below, just for ease of generating the e-score and not having to count like 150 each time. And then look at, what is there a discrepancy, and if so, how much is it? Because I would argue, even if it is 80% accurate, that that's still more meaningful than average rank. But
I think we could debate that, but my issue more than that question would be, ScoutIQ should be honest and just say, hey, this is an estimate. If it's an estimate, say it's an estimate. Don't say it's exact. They're very unambiguous. They say it's an exact figure. And that's kind of a big issue I have.
Okay, gotcha. Speaking of issues with the companies, I guess my main issue with Scoutly is they copied everything that ScoutIQ's done over the years. In my opinion, ScoutIQ did innovate the market. They created eScore. They simplified the sourcing. FBA scan I was showing you, like their user interface used to be a lot more complicated. And then when ScoutIQ came around, they dumbed it down, which is probably part of the reason why people want the app to tell them what to do, is because they made it so simple. What else did they innovate? So there's eScore, the simplicity of it. This is like super biased, but I'll go ahead and plug this. ScoutIQ does have an integration with restrictedinventory.com, whereas Scoutly doesn't. So
grind hard, well done, sir.
When you scan those restricted books, you're able to send them to restricted inventory via the ScoutIQ app. Now, I know it just sounds like I'm plugging my service, but that is pretty valuable. Now, to Scoutly's credit and to ScoutIQ's credit, they both have buyback companies integrated. But again, back to my point, ScoutIQ was the first to integrate with Sell Back Your Book, which then innovated the market to allow Scoutly to integrate with, I believe, a bunch of different buyback vendors, which is arguably better. So again, ScoutIQ kind of moving the needle forward on development there. Now, would ScoutIQ exist without Scoutly? Perhaps not. And for like, and this is probably my biggest, and I'm an affiliate of ScoutIQ over the years. One of my best friends ran the company, Caleb Roth. But if you watch how Scoutly reacted to everything ScoutIQ did, it was copycat tactics. They used the same color scheme. Every time an update rolled out for ScoutIQ, within a week, they rolled out the same one. It's impressive how fast they were able to develop, but I can't imagine how frustrating that must have been. And they changed their name from FBA Scan to Scoutly. The first 5 letters were exactly the same. So when somebody went to type in ScoutIQ, Scoutly would show up in the App Store. So they were stealing traffic that way, which I think personally is like taking it a little bit too far. But I think the reason why Scoutly felt okay to do that is because they were there first. And maybe they felt like ScoutIQ was just a giant copycat of them in the first place. So like, I have not seen Scoutly innovate the market. Maybe they have, but I haven't seen them really generate anything meaningful in the same regard, in the same way that ScoutIQ has. Now they have 1,000 different features I don't know about. So maybe part of the reason why is they just don't do a good job marketing. Maybe the YouTubers don't talk about their features as much, but they have some pretty interesting features. Like I know you could have like 20 different colors for scanning books. So your triggers can turn orange, it can turn red, it can turn green, it can turn blue, which is pretty cool, but it's a little bit unnecessary. So my argument for ScoutIQ versus Scoutly is ScoutIQ innovated the market, and they were more involved with the community, which I guess we're not talking too much about features here. The one feature they do have over Scoutly is the restricted inventory integration. They created eScore. That's kind of my argument, though. And I will admit, Scoutly is a damn good app, too. I'm not saying it's not, but.
So here, okay, I'll give you my version of history. So it's a little bit, it's kind of maybe a little bit of a generation gap here thing, but so my position is that when they were called a seller tool, but Scoutly innovated everything. As far as I know, they were the first app. I mean, they literally invented the concept, as far as I know, going way back to like 2005 or before. So they were the first with the downloadable database. They were the first with everything. Back when there was no smartphones, pre-smartphone, you get a PDA, right, and download. Like this was all Scoutly. So Scoutly, like we all stand on their shoulders, especially ScoutIQ. So I think Scoutly's argument would be, hey, ScoutIQ came along, just knocked us off. And the only innovation that I see them having offered is this eScore figure. And a couple little bells and whistles, like you mentioned, integration with like, with you and like sell back your book or whatever. But the only like substantive innovation I saw them offer was eScore. And then when I looked into it, I found it to actually be a gimmick, in my opinion. So I don't see the argument for ScoutIQ being innovative. What I do see, which I will concede, is they made Scoutly a better app. Like Scoutly did not have.
So you don't think eScore is innovative?
I think the concept was innovative. I think the execution, as we
Gotcha.
discussed, was
Okay.
terrible.
You definitely I'm gonna do a follow-up video on that because because that would devalidate sales score too for Scoutly. We could compare the two.
That would be interesting. Yeah, if you did an audit, and then if they're both wrong, then we just go, hey, we're back to sales rank, right?
Yeah.
So ScoutIQ came along with a couple bells and whistles, but they made ScoutIQ or Scoutly much better for sure. But as far as you want to get into the case of, or make the argument of like who copied who more, I think you could just sort of just feature by feature, or just conceptually, you could argue that ScoutIQ was the one that did most of the copying.
On the release, but after the release, like every feature that was,
sure. and like I said, Scoutly was asleep at the wheel for years, and then ScoutIQ came along, and all of a sudden they had to really like up their game. So
yeah, that's kind of my point though. Like you just said up their game, admitting that the market was innovated by ScoutIQ, admitting that some of their features were good.
I think it's more that Scoutly saw that they had somebody they had to compete with all of a sudden. And so, I mean, in terms of what the innovation ScoutIQ offer, like I said, beyond eScore, I don't really know what there is.
I would argue the simplification of just overall, like the user interface was simplified. And he actually had, he told me this later, but he had a vision of even simplifying it more to like just one decision. And so like you take a 5 million ranked book that has an eScore of 3 and a profit of $100 plus. Let's just say the likelihood of that book selling is 20% or maybe even 10%. Well, it's a $100 book. It's got a 10% chance of selling. Let's just call this book $10 profit. And then vice versa. If there's a book that's a super fast selling book, let's say it's a $10 profit book and the likelihood's 90% chance of it selling, then you value it at $9. So like he did have this vision of potentially making it so dumbed down that it just gives you a number of like a theoretical profit number. That's not even, it's more like on average, this is, if you tallied up your total profit numbers for the day, this is what you probably realistically make with certain books not selling through, with certain books being disposed of, and so they did definitely make the user interface a little bit simpler, and they added stats too. That was something else they did. Scans.
The UI is 1,000 times better with ScoutIQ. That was actually the only, when I did a full like comparison of both apps, that's the only thing I said that actually ScoutIQ excels at significantly is the user interface. But what's so funny is that's the one thing that Scoutly didn't copy. I mean, they did like to a certain extent, but like the Scoutly interface is a mess. It's like an explosion of like numbers just hit you in the face, right? It's like chaotic. So I wish they'd copy that, like, but they didn't. Like the one thing that ScoutIQ does best, Scoutly really didn't copy that well. So anyway, I thought it was interesting, but Scoutly might be listening right now. They might actually steal that.
I bet they are. I know some ScoutIQ guys are listening. David just texted me. I don't know if Caleb's listening or not. I'm trying to see pictures of ScoutIQ versus Scoutly back in the day. Because Matthew, one time I texted Matthew when they released a new version of their UI and it looked exactly like ScoutIQ. It's just like, it was mind blowing. But yeah. Yeah, I mean, Scoutly did always have those 4 columns. It looks like they both released the Apple Watch feature at the same time, which was cool.
So I mean, when you take everything together, like it's cheaper. Scoutly's been around forever. I think the data is better. I just think the argument is clear. The only argument for ScoutIQ, in my opinion, is a better user interface. which you talked about.
I would say better user interface, the ability for buyback offers, which they had for like a couple weeks before. eScore. I'm going to say eScore. I know you think it's not accurate, so you don't include that one. Stats, how many scans you did a day. ScoutIQ didn't have that. Speed mode. Yours truly, that was my idea. Do you know about speed mode? On your phone, you can turn on speed mode. On ScoutIQ, it existed first, but now ScoutIQ copied them, which you can use your phone to continuously scan books and not have to keep clicking that camera icon over and over again. So you can turn speed mode on and go boom, 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 and just scan. That's another one. I love using speed mode now, but you probably wouldn't like speed mode because it only shows profit, eScore, sales rank, and it doesn't show all the numbers. So
does either of them have a buyback only mode? I always thought that should be a thing. Like, I'm not into buyback at all, but I feel like a lot of people are.
I don't know if they have a buyback only mode, but you can turn it on and off on ScoutIQ. Oh, team mode. That's a interesting point. They were the first to roll out the cheaper subscription for teams, which I never really used that too much because I didn't really have a scouting team. What hurt ScoutIQ being bought by 3 Colts? That's a debate right there. Everyone always says after 3 Colts acquired them that they're a lot worse. I personally haven't noticed. I just think they haven't innovated much other than the restricted inventory integration. But I think it's kind of a perception thing.
I know there were some technical hiccups, like maybe there's a period where ScoutIQ was kind of suffering a little bit, but I feel like maybe that I haven't heard those murmurs for a while, so it's probably still the same.
Victor Galejos is saying on the first book 087742 on your article, Peter said the eScore 11 was wrong. He said that it looked off and should have been 6. He's looking at the Keep a chart wrong. It is 11 and the eScore is right. We'll have to make a follow-up.
Oh, I'm getting called out. Wait.
Do you know who Victor is?
Yeah. Hold on, let me check this out. Book number. Hey, I will. If I'm wrong, I will admit it.
You would have to start it from the date you analyzed it, right?
First book 0877. Let me go back to this. I have the article pulled up right now, so give me a second here. 0877. I mean, I will say this. I've had some hardcore ScoutIQ fans try to like come at me, and nobody's debunked, even attempted to debunk.
Really? I'm going to make a video on it. I mean, it'll be easy for my team to analyze.
Yeah. Okay, so 0877. So what do I say here? So my assessment is the eScore is 11, and the sales chart says 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so here's where I think Victor, what might be missing. This is kind of the disclaimer at the beginning. 6 months, the chart is showing a year, and I cropped it on the side. So the 6 months would be after the first drop. Like that's when that clock would start. So you can eliminate the first drop. So I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm not sure what Victor's seeing that I'm not seeing, but I would stand by what I posted.
This is definitely a video I'm gonna make anyway. Yeah. So we will follow up about the accuracy of eScore and sales score as well. Rick and Profit's loving this. This is a great debate. I'm here for the show. Great job, guys. All right. Peter might be coming out to Vegas. We talked a little bit about it. Steve's throwing the event with me, so we'll see. Oh, this is kind of a side note. So Lori says ScoutIQ keeps glitching on me, and the app completely shut down. It'll also stutter on a barcode on ISBN. The issues never happened to me years ago. Shout out to Scoutly. At the time, it was called a seller tool when I was using it back in 2018. It would glitch up on me, but it was my favorite glitch ever. I would have my Bluetooth scanner. I'd have the phone on the shelf, and I would scan. Every once in a while, for some reason, it would stop processing. I think it was like a live lookup. It would just stop looking up the book. When that happened, I knew that I could scan as many books as I wanted, as fast as I wanted. And then it would queue them all up. I don't know how it did it. I think it was all a glitch. And then all of a sudden, all at once, I would hear a bunch of rejects, like the dun-dun noise. But if I ever heard the cha-ching noise, I knew at least one of the 10 books I scanned at super speed was good. And so if I scanned 10 books and all I heard was dun-dun, I knew all the 10 books were bad. But if I heard one cha-ching, then I would go back. And so that's part of what inspired, not to plug GoToLister, but with GoToLister, we have that mode now where you can just scan as fast as you want. and it waits for Amazon to return the ensue one by one. So it queues in all your scans. And that was actually inspired by the glitch of a seller tool back in the day.
That's so funny. Hey, do you find like I do? Like I used to get really angry when tools would glitch. I'm like, hey, listen, I drove an hour out to the source. Like I can't like, and then you run a software tool and you're like, okay, I get it now. Like I have to be,
Yeah. I've become way more compassionate with tools. Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next one. We have manually repricing versus using a repricer. I think we do disagree on frequency of repricing.
I think we do. Is that a separate one, or you want to cover that now? I don't know. I don't have
I guess that kind of goes hand in hand with like my argument for a repricer, like an automatic repricer, would be that you get to reprice every day, which is good for online arbitrage and wholesale. But I don't really actually think it's that important for booksellers to reprice every hour.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with you. I mean, so in terms of manual pricing versus software, like manual pricing will always be the most precise, like 100%. You can never, no tool existing, and maybe that will ever exist, will really to reprice as precisely as you can do it manually. The problem is it just takes forever, right? And it's just prohibitive once you have more than 100 items or 200 items. So that's kind of all my thoughts on that. But as far as how often, I think my short answer would be once a day. I think even with books, and I think my longer answer would be it depends on the type of inventory. I think you should reprice your poorly ranked inventory a lot, like at least once a day, and your better ranked inventory, you can ignore it oftentimes because the prices are going up and down so much. It doesn't matter as much with the high demand inventory. And I think my longer answer would be it depends what kind of repricer you're using, right? So if you got a repricer that's just sort of chasing the lowest price, you're anchored to the lowest price. There's such a thing as repricing too much, because usually that translates to your prices getting dropped. And so the more you reprice, the more your prices drop, and you're sort of over optimizing. And I think that's worse than under repricing. So I'm kind of a lot of thoughts on this, but there is such thing as repricing too much for sure. And it's probably worse than repricing not often enough.
Yeah, I guess maybe the best way for me to approach this is tell you my optimized repricing strategy, what I believe booksellers should be doing. And this is probably for like a medium to large size bookseller. So maybe a cherry picker with like 1,000+ units, or a bulk bookseller. Granted, I've never done bulk books, but I've had 10,000+ units of inventory in before. And so I have to be very aware of eventually dumping inventory rather than paying that $1. Now it's like a $2 fee. So if you have to pay removals on 10,000 items, you're left with a 15 to 20 grand bill. Mm-hmm. And so I know we do disagree on, creating a price war to the bottom. Like that's probably what you're going to categorize what I'm about to say. But what I do after approaching the long-term storage fees, I think it's after 150 days, I will aggressively reprice my inventory below buy box price. So I'll just price a penny under in hopes of definitely getting the buy box. And another reason why we do that is sometimes I believe that books need the market value of the book does need to be brought down in order to generate the sale. And so with high ranked books that maybe they're not selling at $50, but they would sell at $30, the idea would be let the repricer bring it down to a price it would actually sell for. Which we got Victor Galejos in the chat, and you as well, doing a bunch of online arbitrage. So like this is the whole reason why online arbitrage is so great, because people set rules like I just mentioned, and then you have a book that should sell for $100 twice a year, but all of a sudden it didn't sell the first 5 months, and boom, you get a price war with two people doing the repricing strategy I mentioned down to $10, and then Victor buys the $10 book, brings the value back up to 100, and then he sells it for $100. So I know it's not perfect, but after 150 days, I do aggressively reprice my inventory before I now recommend liquidating before I would remove it, but removal fees are absolutely outrageous. And a lot of my students are having success getting paid for their books that they liquidate, versus paying Amazon. So my philosophy is like, if I want to pay $2 in a removal fee, I would rather sell the book at like $1.99 loss. I'd rather drop it down to the price that's going to lose me a little bit less money than paying the $2 fee, or just pay for the liquidation before those long-term storage fees kick in. So that's my philosophy there. But at the beginning, I think we actually do agree on this. Like anywhere from 0 to 60 days, especially to that 0 to 45 days, I am fully on board with repricing its FBA offer 2, 3, and 4. So actually repricing your inventory up. And what I recommend a lot of my users do for go-to listers, use smart pricing. Set your price at what you would like to sell it for, which is usually, if it's a fast seller book, at FBA offer 2 or 3 or 4. And then just give it 30 days to 60 days to sell. I just do 30 days because after 30 days, I'm just going to match buy box. But at least 30 days active to get that sale at that price. And if it doesn't sell, then we're matching buy box from like 30 days to around 150 days. Mm-hmm. That might be a little bit aggressive. I can see repricing against FBA for 2, 3, and 4 for a couple months, but I don't think you want to keep pushing your offer back to FBA offer 4 over and over again, hindering that sale, So
yeah, I don't agree with most of what you just, or I agree with most of what you just said. So for sure, like your repricing strategy should always have an age element to it, right? So you get more conservative with your pricing as inventory gets older. I also agree that a lot of times books don't sell because they're not priced at something that the market can bear. So $50 book, maybe the market can't bear a $50 price, but it can bear $30. And a lot of times you'll reveal pent-up demand where you'll drop something, even just $10, and it'll sell instantly, whereas it's been sitting there for a long time at when the lowest price was $10 more. Like that happens all the time, right? Mm-hmm. So I agree with you there. Where I strongly disagree, and this is kind of its own debate, is the underpricing. There is, in my opinion, there's almost never a justification for underpricing another seller. The exceptions would be basically what I just mentioned, which is if the market is speaking and saying, "Hey, we cannot bear this price. This price is too high. Nobody wants it at this price." But if you've got an inventory that's not really poor selling, to underprice another sellers just to get a sale, I just think it's short-sighted. I don't think it accomplishes what you think it, or what someone would think it accomplishes. It doesn't matter that much for the buy box, because the buy box isn't only going to the lowest price offer. It doesn't really matter to customers because it's like, what's a penny, right? I mean, it's other factors.
But the buy box is given. If you are the lowest price, you have a much higher chance of getting the buy box.
You do, but there's a range, right? I don't pretend. I don't think anyone pretends to know the exact formula, but yeah. Amazon does not discriminate within a certain percentage range, whether it's like 3% or 5%, whatever it is. The penny is not going to matter. Mm-hmm. 10 cents might matter, probably not. 25 cents probably does matter. Like, we don't really know, right? But to underprice, but the penny underprice thing is just like the most short-sighted thing ever. Everyone I don't want to say everyone hates that person, but I just think it's a disservice to all other sellers to take that kind of pricing strategy.
Yeah, I guess maybe I'm not as emotionally attached to my books that have been in my inventory for 150 plus days, but I can tell you with my wholesale inventory, I rage when I see somebody drop the price down like $10 below what everyone else is selling it for. It just makes me so mad. And a lot of times I do hog the buy box. Like if they're going to drop it that low, they will get buy box for X period of time. But it's like, why could you not just keep your price high? Because all of a sudden, if 2 or 3 more people drop it too, then like the market value of that item does go low for maybe for a long period of time before it actually recovers. So I hate people that tank the price too, but I guess I am one of them. But if a book doesn't sell in 150 days, probably not a fast seller anyway. So but I would like to bring on a bulk bookseller to see what their opinion are on this, because all of them do it, So obviously they do it for a reason.
But they do it for a reason, but I don't know if they do it for a good reason. In other words,
should we get Jensen on here?
But I don't know if it accomplishes what they think it accomplishes. That's kind of my argument.
Yeah.
I just think
I mean, even like, well, at my event, Miami Sellers Conference, there's this one guy, Vishal Muti. He does like close to 10 million a year in used book sales, all bulk. And then David was there too. David does several million a year. And then Victor Galejos, he was in the comment section. He has a software that looks for these opportunities where there are price wars and picks them up. They actually analyzed his inventory and like looked for what books he could be pricing higher from his inventory based off his software. because if a book sells, let's just say 3 times a year, 5 times a year at $200 plus, it's a waste of time to aggressively reprice that book down if there's only like 2 or 3 offers. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're bringing down the value of the book for no reason. You should just sit. But so I guess my point there is these bulk sellers are aware that there is flaws in creating these price boards to the bottom, but at the same time, they still do it. So maybe it gives them just enough of the edge on their few thousand units of really old inventory. Like, if it increases their sell through 20-30%, maybe it's worth it for them,
That actually makes sense. Like, if I was a large bulk bookseller, those little tweaks would add, like, if I'm sitting back doing the math, like if I just drop my price on a penny on everything, even if it doesn't, like for a small seller, that wouldn't move the needle at all. Right. But for a big seller, it's like a small percentage of a big number is still a really big number. So if you're, get an extra 1% in sales volume and you're a bulk seller, that's a really significant number. Whereas it'd be meaningless to someone who's smaller. So I think I would pretty much excuse anything if you're a large bulk operation, because it's just a different economics.
Mm-hmm. And before we move on to the next topic, I do want to give you a shout out for creating NeuroPrice. Like, it is a really good software. And you didn't even know about these other softwares that existed, but there's softwares that exist for bulk sellers that take 2% of their sales. So these sellers will be doing a couple $100,000 a month. The software would charge them 2% of that. So they're paying several $1,000s. Now they're paying for an all-in-one solution. A lot of these softwares offer assembly lines. So they're not just paying for the repricing portion, but the repricing portion of the software, the big marketing thing that they say is it compares against all FBA offers, which is what your software does for $17 a month. So kudos to you for creating that. I do really think it's a good solution for the community. So NeuroPrice, guys, go check it out.
Thank you very much.
Next one is high rank books, FBA versus FBM. We kind of talked about that, but yeah, we'll where are we going to go with this one?
I don't have strong opinions about this. I mean, for me, it's a lifestyle question. It's like, I'm not going to go to the post office. So there you go. There's my answer.
Okay, fair enough. My answer is very similar. I think you should focus on one thing, and we both travel a lot, so I think that's probably a big reason why. Like, you don't want to be on the road and get an order and be like, shit, I got to call my neighbor, go to my house, pick up this book.
Yeah.
In a theoretical world where I would optimize for this, I would probably FBM most inventory, like over 2 million rank.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'd be a smart play.
I don't know if he's on right now, but I was just talking over email with a gentleman named Craig, but he has that exact format. He uses a prep service for his merch fulfilled. Actually, let me pull up his email for his to merch fulfill anything over 2 million. That's his cutoff as well. So, and he ships books that he sources offline to this prep center. And I forget his cutoff. I think it's like $30 sales price and 2 million rank. He ships everything to this prep center and just handles all of his merch fulfillment for him, which I think is interesting.
Amazon's gotten better about storage. What's it called? Just storage in general for FBA booksellers. But during restock limits, it was tough. And you definitely didn't want to be sending in high rank or low profit books that, they're just going to sit in your inventory and take up space. Like, restock limits were tough for me in 2020. What year is that? 2020? Is that when they hit really hard at the end of 2020?
Yeah.
Or is it 2021? I think in 2021 they continued. Now we have capacity limits. You can pay for more space, but that put a lot of people out of business.
I remember.
Yeah. So I do think there is. I think sellers that don't send in, that have a cutoff, are pretty smart. Maybe 2 million. But for smaller sellers, our cherry picking audiences doesn't really matter too much. But if you're running a bulk operation, you're shipping thousands a week, just be aware that Amazon can change anything at any given time. And if you have a bunch of slow moving inventory at FBA, probably not a good idea. I do have a prep center doing MF for me. I've been using prep centers for MF for years. Pro tip is get a small prep center, get the owner's number. You'll be able to work with them directly. And
Now, do you ship?
It's basically the same concept of FBA. You're shipping your inventory to a warehouse. It's just not Amazon fulfilling it. It's another warehouse that is.
And is that for inventory? That's inventory that's sourced offline, not just online?
It's a lot from my wholesale inventory right now, which I get from my distributor, and then he'll ship to the prep center. But we were running restrictedinventory.com for years out of a prep center, and they would so I guess all inbound packages, they would open them up. And I forget what rule we had, but it was after like probably 2 million sales rank, we would FBM. Yeah. All right, let's see what else we got here.
Condition notes.
Condition notes. I don't think they matter.
Okay, now we're back to some good, fun debate. So I think well, I'll let you start. I think most sellers agree with you.
I think you should start because I think you've thought more about this. I went to a conference years ago, and I just heard somebody say, nobody looks at condition notes, doesn't matter. Buy box is given a low FBA. Why do you even care? And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. It's funny. So much of our identity and our philosophies as sellers like gets cemented early on. And like I'm so stuck in my ways in certain things that I have to like get forced to like question myself sometimes. So anyway, but not on this one. I stand firm. I think they matter a decent amount. I think that if you could put yourself in the minds of an Amazon buyer, of our customers, right? I think if you look at the reasons why sellers buy, I think it roughly goes in this order. It goes price, right? And then it goes convenience, which would be the buy box. And then third would be trust. A lot of buyers have been burned by third-party sellers. And Amazon knows this, and that's why they're so quick to suspend, blah, 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 right? So I think trust is the part that gets overlooked, that it really does matter to a lot of customers. I'm not going to say like most, and I don't think anyone knows, but a lot. Enough for it to matter. And so the only way you can communicate and instill trust in the buyer is through your condition notes. So what I'm not saying is like your business is going to double if you do this, right? But I'm saying it matters enough that, you just get that little 10% edge and it can really add up. So I think for categories where condition matters, like books, this is going to matter less with something like toys or something like that. But like for where categories where condition matters, books, DVDs, whatever, I think that the condition description, the buyer's looking at it to say, hey, was this item individually inspected? Are the condition notes specific to this item? Like that's another way you can communicate trust. And you put all that in like the first 105 characters because there's a part where it gets cut off that nobody ever sees. I think it can really go a long way. I mean, I'm saying this as an Amazon customer. Like I will look at the condition notes and be like, which one of these can I tell was actually individually inspected, and which of these are just copies?
So what kind of condition notes are you looking for?
So I'm looking for anything that indicates, like I said, that and it's like you can fake that. Like you can write a condition description that looks like it was custom written, that is just boilerplate. Like that's probably what most of them are, right? But I at least want to see that the seller is conscious of my needs as a buyer, even if they're faking it, right? Like I think that matters a lot. And so like if it's like a book, I just want to see, hey, like no writing or highlighting, or like something that indicates like the book has been individually inspected. That's important. And if only like 10% of your customers, like if this translates to a sale, that really does add up. So that's kind of my main argument.
What I recommend people do is put 100% satisfaction guaranteed, ships directly from Amazon. Like that's a condition note that I've used. That's pretty generic, but would that for you, I guess you're like a seasoned buyer, but if you just pretend to be a regular customer, like if you saw that, would that make you want to purchase it? Or you're saying more like this book, what are you looking for? Like this book does not have any writing, contains the dust cover. Like you're looking for stuff. Like if you saw a book like that, you're like, I'm much more likely to purchase it versus like something that could be generic.
What I recommend is to write is that all sellers save condition notes in their listing software, GoToList or whatever, that are generic but don't read like they're generic. So like an example would be, very good condition, light wear to edges of cover, like something that applies to every very good condition book, right?
Yeah.
But it communicates, even if it's not entirely honest, like it communicates that like, hey, this book is
I see what you're saying.
individual person who's looked at the book personally before they listed it. That's what I think is important.
Yeah, I'm sure you've seen those books that say like may contain highlighting.
Terrible.
And they'll use that for all acceptable books. And they're operating on the premise of under promise, over deliver. So they're saying, hey, this book could contain highlighting, all this stuff. And then you purchase it and it's like a pristine condition book that you purchase from Goodwill. And they just use a generic condition note for that. So
I'm not even sure though if those sellers are operating on the philosophy of under promise and over deliver. I think they're just bulk sellers, and they're just like,
yeah,
they can't promise anything, so they have to give that discount.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those companies will just list as acceptable.
Right.
So did you? I don't know if you talked about. Do you care about condition? What's your philosophy on that?
Yeah, I don't think we have talked about that. I mean, in terms of, I would never recommend, a lot of sellers, like if they're selling something in very good condition, they don't consider good condition to be competitive, which I think is crazy. So condition, doesn't matter that much. Acceptable, it's like, yeah, you're going to lose some sales if you list something as acceptable, but they still sell. I don't know if that answers your question, but
did you see Caleb made a blog post about that years ago where he did like a study where he sent a bunch of books all listed as acceptable and then a bunch of the same exact titles as like good, very good, whatever, and the sell-through was the same.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was like a small sample size. I think it was like 40 or 50 books, but suggest that condition and condition notes, for that matter, don't make that a big of an impact on sales. I do have a friend though in California, and he swears by condition notes. And I am a little bit of a hypocrite because when I go on Amazon to purchase books, if I'm going to buy a used book, I will scroll through, and if I see like new, I will purchase it.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So I admit that there might be, but the reason why I don't recommend that to my audience or even myself is I just know I know my prep center or my partner is going to accidentally mess up a like new book, and then we're going to get a bad complaint. I feel like new customers are very highly likely of complaining.
Oh yeah. I think like new is toxic. I would almost never list anything as like new, but I think condition notes are kind of where you get an edge. We all get an edge over mega sellers, like over the big sellers, which is you cannot individually inspect books, but we can. So that's something to consider.
That's something else. I'm just too lazy to do this, but you could do a study on that. I'm definitely going to do the one on the ScoutIQ or the eScore. But another video could be, let's list 500 books, the exact same copies. One has extremely, well-written condition notes, and then the other doesn't, and just see the sell-through.
That would be awesome. I would love to participate in that. I would love to do that myself.
Yeah, even just like 100 books would probably suffice.
Oh yeah, that's a good sample size.
Yeah. All right, next, what's the lowest profit book you should buy? We talked about this.
But I think we disagree too. So your floor is $4.
Yeah. If I'm paying for the book.
And that's $4 payout, right?
Yeah, $4 Amazon payout if I'm investing $1 in the book.
Okay. Do you scale that to, in other words, if you're paying $1 per book, if you're paying $2, does it have to be $8, or how do you scale it?
No, it's just the concept of I don't want to spend $1 for a book that's going to make me $2, because there's a high chance that the book does drop a couple of dollars in price and then I'm at break even.
So what if you're spending $2? What's your payout?
$4 profit is $6.
Yeah. So we don't fundamentally disagree. My approach is the rule of threes. So it's like $3 minimum payout and then 3x ROI. So the only exception to that would be, so like if I'm spending $2, I need to see a $6 payout, et cetera, et cetera. So I've maintained that rule for a very long time, and it pretty much guarantees you'll never lose money, and guarantees you won't not make significant money. But lately, like in the last 4 or 5 years, I have relaxed that to if a sale is imminent and I know it's going to happen quickly, I'll be fine doubling my money. So like a $4 payout for a $2 book, or I won't ever go below $3. That's my floor. But if I'm spending $3, like not whatever, like $6 payout, whatever, I'm fine with that if I know the sale is going to be quick and imminent. So that's those are my standards.
Yeah, I'll send in a $2 profit book if it's like, I'll even send in $1 profit if it's like in my house next to me. I'm about to list it. I'll go ahead and list it, but I'm not going to pay. I'm not going to pay even 25 cents for a book that's going to maybe make me $1. Because if the book's going to yield $1 payout, then all that needs to happen is the book drops in price $1 and you're at break even.
Right.
You know,
I agree with you though. Like if the book's in my possession, probably not $1, but like I would drop it to $2.
mm-hmm.
To me, it's like, for me, it's like even though the book's right there, it's like it's kind of just like a dignity thing. It's like I don't want to be $1 bookseller. Like I want, I have to be getting something. So like something more than $1. So I think $2 is roughly my floor.
Yeah. Do you set minimum prices across all your inventory?
Yeah. I do. I mean, I let my repricer handle it, but like I always want to have like $8.
Yeah. I mean, even like in today's world, $9, $10 is break even sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm sure back in the day you could sell $7 books and get a decent payout.
Dude, it was $7 was the magic number for years. You could still get a $3 payout FBA selling a book for $7, like a small paperback.
Yeah.
It was bonkers. I just remember that $7 number. Every time I see $7 in the FBA column, it's just like boom, buy.
This is going to be a good one. I know we're probably going to disagree on this. Is it okay to ever list a book as new?
Let's go. You want me to go?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's funny. So I have this book that I give away for free on my site, but it's called Reselling for Rebels. And the reason I named the book that, it's like a super cheesy title, but the reason I named the book that is a reference to when my first introduction to like the community of Amazon book selling was the Scan Power Facebook group. And I'd been selling for like a couple years, and I wrote an ebook, and I was like, and like a paperback book too, called Amazon Autopilot. It's like long out of print, but I was like, oh, I'm so excited to tell everyone about this book. So I like posted in the Scan Power Facebook group, and some people were like, oh, cool. Like, what's this book about? Are you like, can you give me some examples? And I was like, oh, like I teach all the tricks, like how to like take books you source used and list them as new. And in my mind, that was just like something we all did. I thought it was just like people. Dude, I got wrecked. Like I got destroyed.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, it's like my first introduction. Everyone hates me. So I do regret some of what I wrote in that book, to be fair. But to bring it back to our subject, there's kind of two sides to this. There's like, is it ethically okay? Like, what is the definition of new? Is it a cosmetically flawless book, or is it a function of a chain of custody? Like, in other words, how many owners a book has had? Is that what makes a new book? How that you define new, or is it just purely a measure of cosmetics? So I would argue it's cosmetics. The number of previous owners is irrelevant. If a book is actually flawless and actually in brand new condition, which is not normal, right? But I'm just saying, if it's actually brand new, that's a new book, in my opinion. Okay, so that's kind of the first side of this. The other side is, does listing new books get you flagged on Amazon as being a potential for possible suspension, which is a separate argument. So the first argument about cosmetics, I'll die on that hill. I don't care if a book is at 1,000 previous owners. If it is truly a new condition book, not cutting corners, a truly new condition book, shrink wrapped or not, I would have no problem listing that book as new, ever, and I do sometimes. Now, if we're going to get in the argument about does listing a books in new condition, does that potentially flag you in the eyes of Amazon? That is an argument that I don't know if any of us have enough information to accurately assess. I can tell you what I do, and to be fair, or to be full disclosure, my account's 15 years old. I probably have some built-in trust that maybe other newer sellers don't have in the eyes of Amazon. So factor that in. But I will still list books in new condition. The only rule that I have is I will not list a textbook in new condition, like an actual, from like one of the big publishers or one of their imprints. I will not list a textbook in new condition because they've got lawyers and that whole thing, right? So that's my only sort of boundary. And I would say the new condition books I list, if you were going to do this, you should keep it well under. Like, I'd be surprised. I was going to say 5%, but I'd be surprised if I even hit 1% of my inventory as books in new condition. It's probably less than that. It's like 1 out of 200 books or something. So I don't do this often. There probably is some threshold where Amazon starts to pay attention if you're selling a lot of new books. It's probably, I'm just guessing, based on a percentage of what you sell. I don't know. But I I think, and I'd be interested to know if you have any insights on this as to what is Amazon looking for? Is this actually expose sellers to risk listing a book in new condition? Let's say University of Nebraska Press, some small publisher. Does Amazon care? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. My answer is, so many people have gotten in trouble for used book sales, and so it's like if people are getting in trouble for used books, I've heard way more stories. I've probably heard like maybe one story of a friend of mine getting in trouble for a new book sale, and it was an ex-library book, and his account didn't even get suspended. And so he got a customer complaint on a book that was not new because it was ex-library. So it was his fault for selling that. But we actually kind of agree on this one. Like I've visited multiple sellers' warehouses who are really big sellers doing millions a year. And they actually have like a whole portion of the warehouse dedicated to vetting books that are in new condition, pristine condition. Minor shelf wear is a new book. Like if you go to Barnes and Noble and you take a book off the shelf and there's a couple of dings on it, do you get the used book price for that book? You don't. You have to pay. You have to pay a brand new, it's got a couple of dings on it. Maybe somebody sat down with coffee and read the book and folded a page. You still have to pay the new price, so that I actually think you're adding value to Amazon or to the marketplace by vetting which books are new and then giving sellers the opportunity to buy pristine condition books. Now, is it risky? Probably. Do I recommend people listening to this YouTube channel sell books as new? Absolutely not. But what I am saying is I've seen multiple large sellers do this. And what's crazy is it increases your acceptance rate by like, if you are able to successfully condition a book as new, it's going to increase your acceptance rate for books that you are able to condition as new by like 50%. Because new prices are so much higher and the competition's lower for new books. On used books, there's probably 20, 30 offers, like 20, 30 people competing with you. On new books, there's usually like one or two.
Oh yeah.
And so you're only competing against a handful of sellers versus like 20 plus. And the price is usually like 50 to 100% higher. So not only are you like tripling your acceptance rate, you're also increasing your margin by like 100%. It's a great concept, but it's risky, and most people screw it up. So don't come back and say, "Oh, Romer the Romer told me to list books as new," and you got your account suspended. But I will say, I've heard a lot of people get their account suspended for selling used books. So,
okay, let me ask you this then. So you've seen large booksellers selling lots of books in new condition. You don't personally see what the risk is, but you don't advise other sellers to list books as new. Is that do you advise against it because you're just concerned that your audience might just do it wrong or cut corners?
Do it wrong. I think, do it wrong. But I do think there could be risk involved with it, But I actually think these publishers and law firms representing the publishers like going after used books because they know that you're not going to be able to provide like a legitimate invoice because it's a used product, and so they can say it's counterfeit. I mean, that's what the textbook companies do. They buy a book from you. They say it's counterfeit. What are you going to do? Show them a goodwill receipt to prove authenticity?
Yeah, when I was running as an arbitrage, I mean, it was just tragic the number of users we would lose, people that got banned over. I mean, it was constant, and I didn't have an answer for them. It was really, I started to feel weird about the whole thing. So I'll tell you a tip. I mean, I'll tell everyone a tip. One of the best, easiest ways to make money, you go into a bookstore where they really vet the condition, where easily 20% of what's on the shelf could pass as a new book, and you buy them at the used prices, list them as new. I do that more than I should admit to. And again, it's not a big percentage of my inventory, but when I go to a bookstore, you're paying used prices for new books. It's easy money.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Your acceptance rate just goes through the roof. All right. When should you take a sellback offer versus sending it to Amazon?
Never. If you're a drug addict, I don't know. I mean, I don't think there's ever. So I used to run a trade-in tool. I don't anymore, but I think the only time you should trade in a book is if you're extremely risk averse, in which case you're not even an entrepreneur at that point. You're just like doing a side hustle at best. Like you're so risk averse, you can't stand the possibility of like listing a book and it not selling, which again is just like, you're not really an entrepreneur if that's your mindset, right? But if you're really risk averse, or you're just really desperate, which that can happen, right? You can't.
I mean, what if the sellback value matches the profit you'd make on Amazon?
But that doesn't ever happen, right? Because that's inherently the buyback price is always going to be a fraction of what the book's worth.
Most of the time.
Always. I mean, am I wrong?
I say that because years ago, 2018, when I started book arbitrage, Caleb was selling a bunch of books from Amazon to buyback vendors. And so I tried doing the same thing. So I would go on, at the time I was using eFlip, I would search these books into bookscouter.com. And every once in a while you come across a book that for whatever reason they're offering like $60 for. And just the same, probably the same thing, like repricing war happened on Amazon temporarily. You could pick it up for $40 and you could sell it for 60. But the problem I ran into was I would buy probably a few $1,000s worth of these books, which was a ton of money for me back then. And then a lot of the buyback companies would not honor their buyback price.
Mm-hmm.
They would say, oh, this book's not in good condition, or they would change the price. And then I was like, okay, this isn't going to work out.
Yeah. So when I ran a trade-in arbitrage tool called ZenTrade, which I don't anymore, but it was basically based on this premise, which is that a lot of times sellers will list a book for below the buyback value. And so we would just scan BookScatter and Amazon when Amazon had a trading program. And then we compare that to the price was the lowest price on Amazon. And then we just alert you to any times when the price you could pay for is less than the buyback side. Now, what we found is that was easy money for like 18 months. And then it just completely dried up. And it just didn't work anymore for whatever reason. I suspect there were people with like serious money and serious algorithms that were just siphoning, kind of like high frequency traders on, in the stock market. They were just siphoning everything off instantly. Like that's kind of what the impression I got. That had tools they were using internally that weren't public. That's my guess. But that money, that easy money dried up after a while.
Mm-hmm.
So the
Yeah.
opportunity exists theoretically, but
yeah, I guess my answer for this is like, definitely if the buyback price matches your profit, 100% take the buyback price, assuming it's a reputable buyback vendor. So like Books Run, Sell Back Your Book, Valor Books is pretty good. The other companies like Pals, they're very particular about which books they accept. I think Textbook Rush is too. There's a few others that you just don't want to really send to unless it's like a pristine condition book. But I've never ran like a bulk book operation, but I know I'd probably have like one Gaylord just dedicated to buyback price, especially for these like fast moving books that are only going to bring you $1 or $2 from Amazon. If you're going to make even 50 cents or 25 cents guaranteed from the vendor, I'd probably just send it to them.
That's an interesting thought. So yeah, if you're running a bulk operation and you've got a bunch of books that like you might make $1 on Amazon, but the buyback site's going to give you 25 cents. That would actually make sense. I would definitely be behind that. That would make sense. But I think the premise of what I'm saying is that inherently the buyback price is always going to be a fraction of what you could the actual value Amazon, the actual profit you can make on Amazon, because the buyback sites have to make their money somehow. So, but yeah, there are exceptions, and I think you kind of just pointed one out that I think is good.
Yeah. I'm going to go in the comments section. We got somebody saying, I found a few books where Sell Back Your Book offered a higher price than the current available price, but it's very rare. Brian Fisher says, with high demand books, Sell Back Your Book often compete with MF profit after considering shipping, supplies, and labor. My biggest source of new books is Friends of the Library slush piles. That's one of your guys, Bernice Tuck.
Oh, Bernice, what's up? Oh, interesting. Yeah. Bernice has been on for a long time, so he's a guinea pig.
Nice. Sometimes I'll find a buyback offer that's very close to profit. If it's 100K or so, I'll take the money for the buyback.
Yeah, you'll see these guys sometimes like at library sales, or like I met one like at a half price books dumpster one time. That's all they do is buyback. And so they'll just sit there with the BookScatter app, and that's all they do.
Yeah. I think years ago I saw somebody, I'm like, what app is that? It's not ScoutIQ, it's not Scoutly. And I think they were just using like maybe Books Run just to scan books. They'll make money off of it.
Yeah. I'm looking at these comments.
Yeah. What's your yearly approximate average sales price? So for me, I do mainly textbook sales via restrictedinventory.com. Our average sales price last year, I think, was about $30.
Dude, I don't even know mine. I used to know that number, but I'm embarrassed. I have no idea what mine is.
I mean, as an online arbitrage guy, it's probably pretty high, right? Oh, but you do still a lot of thrifting.
I'm not doing much online arbitrage at all anymore. I mean, when I parted ways with an arbitrage, I kind of checked out a little bit.
Thoughts on placement fees? I'll give my answer. We recently discovered this. A lot of go-to lister users are finding out that if you make a shipment of 200 plus books, you can have Amazon optimized splits on, and they'll still send all your books to one warehouse. So you get to have your cake and eat it too. All your books go to one place, easy box content flow, and you don't pay the placement fees. Whereas if you do pay the minimal splits, it's upwards of 60, 70 cents per book. That means you're paying $700 per 1,000 books you send in, which is pretty outrageous. I know Mike, the used book guy, likes paying that, but if you can find a workaround, like a lot of people are finding, if you send 200 books, there are no splits. So if you're doing enough volume, just wait till you have 200, and then you don't have to pay the placement fees.
That's interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on the partial splits, minimal splits, that kind of stuff that's going on?
No.
Yeah. When you make shipments, are you dealing with mini splits?
I mean, yeah, I think everybody does. I mean, but I wouldn't say it's particularly worse than it's ever been.
Mm-hmm. It's been crazy. Like some parts of the country, like literally, like we'll get screenshots from our users and they're like, what did go-to lister do? And it'll show 7 different warehouses. And so either my recommendation is list those 200 books or turn on partial splits if Amazon optimized splits. But the cool thing about Amazon optimized splits, or I guess not the cool thing, but it's a hack, is you can just continue whatever you're using, whatever listing software, just keep sending it over and over again. And they'll send you different split options, like minute by minute. They'll change it. Partial splits, they charge you about half the fee. They'll charge you 35 to 40 cents, and then they'll still split your shipment. So you're paying a fee and you have to deal with splits. And so the 200 book option, I think, is pretty good if it's working for you.
I'm looking at this Barnes & Noble comment. Anything involving Barnes & Noble catches my eye.
We got Don Poole in here saying totally agree with Peter on this one. Watching other Amazon resellers on YouTube is a reason I stopped ordering on Amazon. That's funny. What about sellers who grade everything as good? That's what I do just because it increases my speed. I will list things as acceptable, but I'll just list as good so I can scan fast.
I don't feel strongly about it. I still split it. I mean, I still grade my books into good and very good.
Don Poole saying condition note matters most when Amazon doesn't own the buy box, and for textbooks, great condition notes build trust, especially when you have a chance when there's no buy box offer.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. Lori says she did a batch of 300, it split 4 ways. Just depends on what part of the country you're on. Did I win the Vegas trip, darling? We're not doing one today. Currently building a pallet of books. Good stuff. How can I increase sales and average profit per book? I sell about 750 books per month at 1,400 new ones. With a strategy boost sales and profit, if I focus on sourcing more profitable books. I mean, you're only going to increase your average sales price or average profit if you keep sending in good books. If you send in crappy books, low profit books, high rank books, it's not going to be good.
I mean, the other thing I would say is, when you're repricing, look for opportunities to increase your price.
Yeah.
That's the thing a lot of sellers miss out on.
Definitely. I've always recommended repricing up at night, but your software kind of accomplishes what I want to accomplish anyway, which is I want to land at FBA for 2, 3, or 4. So we'll let our whole inventory breathe at nighttime by repricing up to our max price, and the next morning it'll go back down. Hopefully other repricers, hopefully there was somebody right above us in price, maybe $1 or $2, $3 above us. Since we raised the price, they'll get the buy box the next morning, we'll be at their price. Scott Needham talked about that. He raised his profit margins from 14% to 18% as one of the biggest sellers on Amazon. Granted, he's doing a lot of wholesale, but I think we can implement that strategy as booksellers too. Anytime you have a reason to reprice up, you should reprice up. Like if your repricer is never set to go up, there's something wrong with it.
Yeah. And there's a lot of there's several repricers that I give the option of setting different rules for nighttime, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Be Cool offers that.
Yeah, Be Cool, Channel Max, Reprice It doesn't. Neuroprice might
Someday.
but it would be a cool feature, but I mean, not super necessary since you're already able to compare against FBF for 2, 3, and 4. Or is it just FBF for 2, 3?
2 and 3.
2 and 3. Was 4 kind of hard to get?
Actually, no. There's no reason. It's just I just felt like it kind of cluttered up the UI, but we're getting a lot of requests for it, so I think we'll probably add it.
I read and check every book I scan, then purchasing, check the Amazon app if restricted, and I don't have the documents, no buy. I don't think you read every single book you scan.
You read it. You go over the couches in the thrift store and
dude, how many times are you like checking out and people actually think you're to read all the books?
you know what? I will never admit what I'm actually doing. I'm
Really
about that. But yeah, I always have a joke. It's like you ever get the joke? You're like, oh, you're opening a library. It's like
yeah.
So yeah,
I just like the genre of books that I'm buying are just so funny sometimes. Like biology, 13th edition, then like some book on sex, and then like just like
you know what? I used to when I was doing Merge Fulfilled, when I have people over, I used to have like a small apartment and I just have books everywhere. And I would go, hey, the first thing when people walk in, I go, hey, this is way back before 2011 or whatever. I would go, just so you know, these books over here, like I'm selling, so don't judge me based on what the content is. And inevitably people go over and like, why do you have a book on, tantric or whatever? It's like,
yeah.
I just told you.
My first IP complaint ever was a book on how to not be gay. And the way I found out that I had an IP complaint, it was back then Amazon would call you and they would like make sure like you're going to address the complaint. And so I'm in Kroger's, I get a call and then they're like, yeah, we need to make sure, you're addressing this IP complaint. I'm like, on what product? They're like, how to not be gay. And I'm like, what the
speakerphone.
Oh man. All right, let's see if we missed any comments before we get out of here. Any last minute burning questions you guys have for Peter or myself, go ahead and ask away. This was I'd say it was a successful debate. Who won? Put it in the comments. Romer or Peter?
You can win on some questions and not others. You probably won.
Right.
I probably won some.
We definitely. I'm doing a follow-up video on the e-score.
Yeah, listen. Feel free to like put me on blast. Like if you think I just completely, I think I'm right, but
I've never really questioned it, so I need to do some research. So I don't really have a strong opinion yet.
I will record a concession speech if
okay.
you disprove it. Love you both. Waiting for a scanner or no FBA blind spot. Hey, I don't need any more businesses to run. Don't give me any ideas.
Oh, this is interesting. Shout out to both of you. Roman and Rakin got me in the book game. Peter Valley kept me in it. Much love. Appreciate you. Oh, we got Geo Smith in the house. Geo, he's doing like $10K a month out of Louisiana.
Oh,
Baton
awesome.
Rouge. Yeah.
I love the Deep South.
You both have valid points. I agree with Peter more than I agree with Avery. But what word is that? Addery? Oh, Avery had some good points as well. I thought that was a word, new word I didn't know, but it's my name with a D. Thank you guys both. Great. The dialogue was appreciated. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you, Lilac.
Wow, did we go almost 2 hours? That did not feel.
Yeah, no, time flies. Do either of you have an in-depth video on scanner apps that's more recent? Do you have a recent video on that?
So I have two. I have one that compares ScoutIQ and Scoutly. I go pretty in depth, and another one where I talk about how to read scanning app data, which is not specific to any one app. Those are my two kind of.
Yeah. If you guys go watch just look at any video I have like over 30 minutes, where I'm like out scanning, and usually there's like a ScoutIQ portion involved. 80K a month, doing nothing but use cameras here. Nice. Nice.
Yeah, Victor, I hope to meet you as well someday. I know I've been hearing your name for a long time.
Yeah, Joji kind of like not pushed me to interview you, but I think he mentioned you, and I was like, well, why don't I reach out to Peter? Why am I not talking with
Why
him?
am I so antisocial? It needs to stop.
You should come out. It's like, dude, I'm telling you. Have you ever been to like a Amazon related conference before?
Not a single one.
Yeah, so much fun, man. You just around a bunch of people
I have
that
no excuse.
think like you, you know.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Speaking of that, should probably show the speaker lineup for that. Booksandbeyondcon.com. Is it cool if I show this real quick?
Of course.
So we have a conference coming up here in Vegas in person. If you guys look at my screen real quick, you go to booksandbeyondconference.com to learn more about it. Ticket prices will be increasing, and it's going down September 13th through the 15th. As you see here, we have all of our sponsors. Shout out Sell Back Your Book, Be Cool, Little Out Prep, and this is hosted by Joji Davenport, Victor Galejos, myself, and Steve Rake. And we have a monster lineup. Back from the burnout, she's on YouTube. She's doing a lot of eBay content right now. She's from Australia. Her videos are popping. She's getting like 10K plus views per video. Steve Rakin, Caleb Roth will be there. Peter's worst enemy. I'm just kidding. FBA Dave. We got actually me and speaking of like internet beef, me and FBA Dave had like I didn't cuss him out, but I was on a walking treadmill years ago, 2021. And he called me out. I was doing, you remember when automation was popping off, like all this Amazon automation where people said, we'll for 30 grand, we'll build you a profitable Amazon business and you'll make 200K. So I launched my book version of that. And I was buying pallets of green books from a few different people. And FBA Dave was like, you're full of shit. These pallets aren't going to make anything. And I was like, screw you, dude. And I like made a whole video about how he was full of shit and like how I was right. And like all the pallets broke even. A few people made a profit. A lot of people lost money. And I had to reimburse like $25,000 out of my pocket for this. So he was actually kind of right. So FBA Dave, I'll see you in person in September. Reezy Resells will be there. Legend in the space. Chris Green. This guy's way taller than you think. He's like 6'7". He came to Miami Sellers Conference.
Dude, he is an OG. Like like what Caleb Roth is to you, like Chris Green probably is to me. Like
okay,
I learned from Chris Green.
Yeah,
almost everything.
I didn't even realize he's with Scam Power.
Wait, you didn't know? I mean, that's all I know him through.
Gotcha. Yeah, I didn't even I met him in person in Miami. I would have brought that up if I would have known that.
Yeah.
Amanda Ballard. We got Seth Kordick. This kid purchased my course years ago, which is now free on starthumble.com. I used to charge $400 for my course, and he went through it. Probably got to a few thousand a month in book sales, but then he started doing eBay to Amazon, and now he'll make like 20 to 30K during Q4 per month profit. I think he's pumping out like 20K profit months in the off season, but he's out of Denver. Super proud of this kid. We got Shannon Mann. She is Virginia Prep Center. Do you have a recommended prep center that you use for your people?
Shannon, she's the one.
Okay, sure. Nice. Central Virginia Prep. Sell Back Your Book is going to be there. Bill Martlink, his claim to fame, I always say this, he met Jeff Bezos years ago. He's got a picture with him. So pretty cool. Massive book business, super smart guy. Jameson Philippi, more of an RA seller, but he lives in Vegas, so we decided to invite him. He's got a cool story too. Max Ruback. Do you know about Max?
No.
He's a rare book expert. People on Instagram in the book community will just send him pictures of books that they think might be of value that like maybe aren't on Amazon. They're like 1800s type books, and he'll tell you if it's worth it or not to pick it up.
Dude, you know who you need to get? How many people here watch Pawn Star? Pawn Stars. That woman book expert they bring in from Vegas. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
Pawn Stars. They get a book in, and there's this rare book expert in Vegas. She's like this super cool woman.
Okay.
Anyway, I would love to. She always seems really cool. I'd love to.
If she's in Vegas, might as well invite her.
Yeah.
John Muscarillo, Aaron Worley. This is the owner of Little Owl Prep. So you guys will get to meet two prep centers, which is pretty cool to meet them in person. And Vishal's doing, he did almost 10 million last year. I bet he's at 10 million the last 12 months right now. Over $1 million net profit. Great resource to have. Inspiration to the book selling community. So go to booksandbeyondcon.com. Tickets are extremely cheap compared to Miami Sellers Conference. We charge almost $1,500 for Miami Sellers Conference for the full weekend. And with this, just for a couple $100, you can invest in your ticket and meet all these people in person for a 2-day event. So hopefully Peter will be there too.
Dude, I mean, I have no skin in this game, but like when I think about the quantum leaps my business has taken, it's always been from a live event, always, like 100% of the time. So if you're on the fence, like it's impossible for this to not pay for itself in the long term.
Yeah. In ways that you just would not expect.
Exactly.
Like it's just crazy. Jeremy the Entrepreneur says Romer's awesome. Peter Valley would have never done that. What's he referring to?
I don't know.
You can tell he fucks. Oh my gosh. Peter Valley is punk rock personified.
Yeah.
Love hearing people with different opinions, not turning a negative shouting match. Yeah, it's probably more entertaining than the president debates. I had trouble listening to those on 2x speed the next day.
Rebecca Romney. She's the Vegas rare book expert.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. Victor, can you remind me to reach out? Have followed both of you for years. It's great hearing back and forth. Appreciate that. Look forward to meeting you at the conference. Heck yeah, Scott. When's the last day to buy a ticket? Well, the prices are just going to keep going up. So I would invest in one sooner than later. We'll probably sell tickets. I'm just saying this up through the event. There's a chance we might stop them early. At Miami Sellers Conference, sometimes we run out of space. We might run out of space here. I think we have decent space though. So we'll just raise the ticket prices on you guys to create urgency. So buy sooner than later. Well, all right, Peter. Thanks so much for coming on. Thanks for your audience watching, and definitely, guys, go check out his software, NeuroPrice. Like, it is really good. And I shot some videos recently on my channel about it. So if you guys want to give him a thank you for coming on the channel, the biggest thank you can give is giving his software a try.
And go to listener. I'm sure everybody here is already a subscriber, but definitely
Appreciate that.
And dude, thank you for your service over the years. Yeah, everyone
100%.
speaks highly of you, and so thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And you and I have a bunch of videos dropping soon. So everyone, if you like this, we have much more in-depth, highly edited videos coming over the next few weeks. So be sure you're subscribed. And if you guys aren't already, go to Peter Valley's channel, hit that subscribe button. Much love, guys, and we'll see you next time. Peace.